My autism made me a burden to our adoptive family until he chose me and we broke every rule. Chapter 1. The Different One. Jamie Hayes had always known they were different, even before the official diagnosis at age 15 confirmed what years of school struggles, social confusion, and family tension had already made clear. Autism spectrum disorder, the psychologist had explained to their adoptive parents, the Hendersons, in a clinical voice that made Jamie feel like a medical specimen rather than a teenager trying to understand their place in the world. The diagnosis had come as a relief to Jamie, finally providing a framework for understanding why crowded spaces felt overwhelming, why certain textures made their skin crawl, why they could memorize entire books about marine biology but struggled to remember to make eye contact during conversations. For the first time, Jamie's behaviors and challenges had a name, an explanation that wasn't personal failure or willful defiance. But for the Henderson family, the diagnosis had felt more like a burden than a breakthrough. David and Margaret Henderson had adopted Jamie when they were 8 years old, hoping to expand their family after years of infertility struggles. They had envisioned family game nights, sports activities, and the typical milestones of raising a neurotypical child. Instead, they found themselves navigating meltdowns triggered by unexpected schedule changes, advocating for accommodations at school, and constantly adjusting their family routines to accommodate Jamie's sensory sensitivities and social challenges. Jamie was now 18, a senior at Westfield High School, and still living in the liminal space between childhood and independence that felt especially complicated for someone whose developmental timeline didn't match societal expectations. They excelled academically in subjects that interested them, particularly science and literature, but struggled with the social navigation and executive functioning skills that their peers seemed to develop effortlessly. The Henderson household had 2 other children, Sarah, their biological daughter, who was 2 years younger than Jamie and seemed to excel at everything that Jamie found challenging, and Marcus, their newest addition. Marcus had joined the family 6 months ago as a foster placement that was moving toward adoption, and at 19, he was technically older than Jamie, but had arrived with his own complex history and trauma that required careful attention and support. Marcus Rivera had aged out of the foster care system the previous year, but had been invited to live with the Hendersons through a transitional housing program designed to help young adults develop independent living skills while maintaining family support. He was charming, socially adept, and had quickly become the Hendersons' success story, the kind of placement that made them feel effective as parents and advocates. Jamie watched Marcus navigate family dinners with easy conversation, help Sarah with her homework without being asked, and remember to complete household chores without the detailed lists and reminders that Jamie required to function successfully. Marcus represented everything that Jamie felt they could never be: intuitive, socially graceful, and capable of meeting their adoptive parents' expectations without constant accommodation and understanding. The contrast between Marcus and Jamie had become increasingly apparent over the 6 months of his residence, and Jamie could sense their adoptive parents' relief at finally having a child who seemed to validate their parenting approach and family vision. David Henderson, who worked as a financial advisor, often praised Marcus's initiative and responsibility, while Margaret, a part-time social worker, appreciated Marcus's emotional intelligence and ability to connect with Sarah. Jamie, meanwhile, continued to require explanations for social cues they couldn't interpret, needed advance notice for any changes to routine, and struggled with the kind of flexible thinking that family life seemed to demand constantly. They felt like they were letting the Hendersons down simply by being themselves, despite their academic achievements and genuine efforts to meet family expectations. Jamie's incredibly intelligent, Margaret would explain to friends and relatives, but the autism makes certain things really challenging. We're doing our best to help them develop coping strategies and life skills. Jamie hated being discussed as a project or challenge to be managed, but they understood that their adoptive parents meant well and were genuinely trying to provide support. The problem was that their version of support often felt like attempts to fix or normalize behaviors that were fundamental aspects of how Jamie experienced the world. School presented its own set of challenges and successes. Jamie had a small group of friends who shared their interests in academic subjects and science fiction, and they had learned to navigate the social complexities of high school by finding their niche and avoiding situations that triggered sensory overload or social confusion. Their teachers appreciated Jamie's intellectual curiosity and depth of knowledge, though some struggled to understand why a student who could write sophisticated analysis of Victorian literature had difficulty with group projects and oral presentations. Jamie's special interest was marine biology, and they spent hours reading research papers, watching documentaries, and dreaming about studying oceanography in college. They had already been accepted to several universities with strong marine science programs, but the transition to college felt overwhelming when they considered the social and practical challenges of living independently. The Henderson family dynamics had become increasingly strained as college decisions loomed and Jamie's future independence became a pressing concern. David and Margaret seemed uncertain about Jamie's readiness for college life, despite their academic qualifications, and frequently discussed their concerns within Jamie's hearing as if they weren't present or capable of participating in decisions about their own future. "I just worry about whether Jamie can handle the social aspects of college," Margaret had said during a recent family meeting about post-graduation plans. "The academic work won't be a problem, but living in a dorm, managing a meal plan, navigating all the unstructured social time, it seems like it might be too much too soon." Jamie felt frustrated by these conversations, which seemed to focus entirely on their challenges and limitations rather than their strengths and adaptability. They had developed effective coping strategies over the years and had specific ideas about the kind of college environment that would work best for their learning style and social needs. Marcus, who was present for these family discussions as he worked toward his own college and career goals, often listened with what appeared to be thoughtful concern. Jamie appreciated that he didn't offer unsolicited advice or treat them like a younger sibling who needed guidance, but they also felt like he was observing their family struggles from the outside, not fully understanding the complexity of their relationship with the Hendersons. One evening in late March, as Jamie was working on college application essays in their room, Marcus knocked on their door and asked if he could come in to talk. Jamie looked up from their laptop, surprised by the request since they had rarely had private conversations despite living in the same house for 6 months. "I hope this isn't weird," Marcus said, settling into the desk chair while Jamie remained cross-legged on their bed, "but I wanted to ask you about your college plans. I've been hearing bits and pieces of family discussions, and I'm curious about your perspective on everything." Jamie felt a flutter of nervousness about this unexpected personal conversation, but also appreciation that Marcus was asking for their viewpoint rather than making assumptions or offering advice. "I'm excited about college, especially the marine biology programs I've been accepted to, but everyone seems to think I'm not ready for independence, which is frustrating because I feel like I understand my own capabilities and needs better than anyone else." Marcus nodded thoughtfully, and Jamie could see that he was genuinely listening rather than formulating responses or judgments. "That makes sense. It seems like you've put a lot of thought into your future plans and have specific goals that you're working toward." "I have," Jamie confirmed, feeling encouraged by Marcus's respectful approach to the conversation. "I know I'll need some accommodations and support systems, but I've researched the disability services offices at different schools, and I've developed strategies for managing the things that are challenging for me." Marcus was quiet for a moment before responding. "Can I ask you something that might be personal? How do you feel about living here with the Henderson family? I know it's complicated because of the adoption and everything, but I'm curious about your experience." Jamie felt surprised by the directness of Marcus's question, but also relieved to have someone ask about their feelings rather than making assumptions about their family relationships. "I love the Hendersons, and I'm grateful that they adopted me and have provided me with opportunities and support, but sometimes I feel like they see my autism as something that needs to be fixed or managed rather than just part of who I am. And I think they're disappointed that I'm not the kind of child they imagined when they decided to adopt." Marcus's expression became more serious, and Jamie could see that their honesty had given him something significant to think about. "I'm sorry you feel that way. From what I've observed, they really do care about you and want you to be successful and happy." "I know they care," Jamie replied, "but caring and understanding are different things. They care about the version of me that they think I could become with enough therapy and intervention. I'm not sure they actually like or accept the version of me that exists right now." This conversation marked the beginning of a shift in Jamie and Marcus's relationship, evolving from polite coexistence to genuine friendship built on mutual respect and honest communication. Marcus began seeking out Jamie's perspective on family dynamics, school experiences, and future plans, while Jamie found themselves appreciating Marcus's ability to listen without judgment and ask questions that helped them clarify their own thoughts and feelings. But as their friendship deepened, Jamie also became increasingly aware that their feelings for Marcus were developing beyond platonic appreciation into something more complicated and potentially problematic. Marcus was technically their adoptive sibling, even though their family relationships were unconventional, and Jamie worried that romantic feelings would complicate an already complex family dynamic while potentially jeopardizing the first genuine connection they had developed with someone in the Henderson household. Chapter 2. Growing Understanding. Over the following weeks, Marcus and Jamie's evening conversations became a regular occurrence, creating a routine that both of them looked forward to despite the unusual nature of their family relationship. Marcus would finish his community college coursework and part-time job responsibilities, then knock softly on Jamie's door around 9 p.m., when the rest of the Henderson household had settled into their evening routines. These conversations covered increasingly personal territory, with Marcus sharing his experiences in foster care and his challenges adjusting to family life after years of institutional placement, while Jamie opened up about their autism diagnosis, their relationship with the Henderson family, and their fears about college and independence. "I've never had a real family before this," Marcus admitted during one of their late-night talks, "so I don't always know what's normal or healthy in terms of family dynamics, but some of the things I observe here seem like they might be harder on you than the Hendersons realize." Jamie felt validated by Marcus's observation, particularly because he was seeing their family interactions from an outside perspective rather than defending established patterns or making assumptions based on neurotypical expectations. "What kinds of things do you notice?" Jamie asked, genuinely curious about Marcus's perspective on their family relationships. Marcus considered his response carefully before speaking. "I notice that Sarah gets praised for things that come naturally to her, while you get praised for meeting basic expectations that are actually really challenging for you. And I notice that your interests and expertise get dismissed as obsessions, while Sarah's hobbies are encouraged as well-rounded development." Jamie felt a surge of emotion at having their experiences recognized so clearly and articulated so respectfully. "I've noticed those things too, but I always thought maybe I was being too sensitive or reading too much into normal family interactions." "I don't think you're being too sensitive," Marcus replied firmly. "I think you're being treated unfairly in subtle ways that might not be intentional, but are still harmful." These conversations helped Jamie understand that their discomfort with certain family dynamics wasn't just autism-related sensitivity, but legitimate concerns about being valued and accepted for who they actually were, rather than who they might become with enough intervention and accommodation. Marcus also began advocating for Jamie in small but meaningful ways during family interactions. When David Henderson made comments about Jamie's future readiness for independence, Marcus would quietly mention Jamie's academic achievements and self-advocacy skills. When Margaret dismissed Jamie's special interests as obsessive behaviors, Marcus would reframe them as evidence of passion and expertise that could lead to meaningful career opportunities. "Jamie knows more about marine ecosystems than most college graduates," Marcus observed during one family dinner conversation about career planning. "That kind of specialized knowledge and genuine interest is exactly what makes people successful in scientific fields." Jamie felt touched by Marcus's support and impressed by his ability to advocate effectively without creating conflict or defensiveness among the other family members. Marcus had a talent for reframing conversations in ways that highlighted Jamie's strengths while gently challenging assumptions about their limitations, but Jamie was also becoming increasingly aware that their feelings for Marcus were evolving beyond gratitude for his friendship and support. They found themselves looking forward to their evening conversations with an intensity that went beyond intellectual compatibility, and they began paying attention to Marcus's physical presence, expressions, and mannerisms in ways that felt distinctly romantic rather than platonic. The realization that they were developing romantic feelings for Marcus created a new source of anxiety and confusion for Jamie. They had limited experience with romantic relationships, having had only one brief dating experience during junior year that had ended awkwardly due to communication misunderstandings and social navigation challenges. More significantly, Jamie was uncertain about whether romantic feelings for Marcus were appropriate given their family relationship, even though they weren't biologically related and had only been living together for a relatively short time. The Henderson family had invested significant emotional energy in creating a stable environment for both Marcus and Jamie worried that romantic complications could jeopardize those living arrangements and family relationships. Jamie was also uncertain about whether Marcus might be experiencing similar feelings, or whether his kindness and attention were purely supportive friendship rather than romantic interest. Marcus was socially skilled in ways that Jamie found difficult to interpret, and his behavior toward Jamie could be read as either platonic care or romantic interest, depending on the observer's perspective and assumptions. One evening in early April, their usual conversation took a more personal turn when Marcus asked Jamie about their previous dating experiences and romantic interests. Jamie felt nervous about the direction of the conversation, but also hopeful that Marcus's questions might indicate personal interest rather than general curiosity. "I don't have much experience with dating," Jamie admitted, feeling self-conscious about their limited romantic history. "I had one boyfriend junior year, but it didn't work out very well. Communication was challenging, and I think he got frustrated with my need for routine and advanced planning for social activities." Marcus listened attentively to Jamie's explanation, asking follow-up questions that suggested genuine interest in understanding Jamie's perspective on relationships and romantic compatibility. "Do you think dating is more challenging because of your autism or because you haven't found the right person yet?" Marcus asked, his tone careful but curious. Jamie considered this question, recognizing that it touched on fundamental concerns about their future relationship prospects and their ability to form lasting romantic connections. "Probably both," Jamie replied honestly. "I think I need someone who understands that I communicate differently, and that I need certain accommodations for sensory issues and social navigation. But I also think I haven't met someone who actually likes the way I experience the world rather than just tolerating it or trying to change it." Marcus was quiet for several moments after Jamie's response, apparently processing their perspective on romantic compatibility and relationship needs. "I think," Marcus said finally, "that the right person would appreciate your way of experiencing the world because it would help them see things from new perspectives and understand complexity that they might miss otherwise." Jamie felt their hearts skip at Marcus's response, which seemed to suggest not just theoretical support for their relationship goals, but also personal appreciation for their neurodivergent perspective and experiences. "Do you really think so?" Jamie asked, hardly daring to hope that Marcus's comment reflected personal interest rather than general encouragement. Marcus moved closer to Jamie on the bed where they were sitting, close enough that Jamie could see the sincerity in his expression and feel the warmth of his presence. "I know so," Marcus said softly. "I think you're incredible exactly as you are, and anyone who doesn't appreciate your intelligence, passion, and unique perspective is missing out on something really special." Jamie felt their breath catch at Marcus's words and the intimate tone of his voice, recognizing that this conversation had moved beyond supportive friendship into territory that felt unmistakably romantic. "Marcus," Jamie said quietly, "are you saying that you're interested in me romantically, or are you just being supportive as a friend?" Marcus's smile was gentle and warm as he reached out to take Jamie's hand. "I'm saying that I've been falling for you for weeks, and I've been trying to figure out how to tell you without making things complicated with our family situation." Jamie felt a surge of joy and relief at Marcus's confession, but also immediate anxiety about the practical implications of romantic involvement given their living arrangement and adoptive family relationships. "What would that mean for us?" Jamie asked, gripping Marcus's hand tightly. "I mean, we live in the same house, and the Hendersons are trying to adopt you. Wouldn't a romantic relationship complicate everything?" Marcus squeezed Jamie's hand reassuringly. "We'd have to be careful and thoughtful about how we handle things with the family, but I don't think our feelings for each other should be limited by housing arrangements or legal relationships that don't reflect our actual connection." Jamie felt their heart racing with excitement and nervousness as they processed the reality that Marcus shared their romantic feelings and was willing to navigate the complications that a relationship would create. "I've been having feelings for you too," Jamie admitted, feeling brave and vulnerable simultaneously. "But I was scared that you saw me as a younger sibling or just someone who needed support rather than someone you could be romantically interested in." Marcus leaned closer, his eyes searching Jamie's face for permission before closing the distance between them in their first tentative kiss. The contact was gentle and sweet, conveying affection and attraction while also acknowledging the significance of crossing from friendship into romantic territory. When they separated, both of them were smiling with the kind of nervous excitement that marked the beginning of something new and meaningful. "So what happens now?" Jamie asked, still holding Marcus's hand and feeling amazed by the turn their relationship had taken. "Now we figure out how to be together while being respectful of our family situation and your college plans," Marcus replied. "It might be complicated, but I think we're both capable of handling complexity when it's worth the effort." Jamie felt confident that their connection with Marcus was definitely worth whatever challenges they might face in building a romantic relationship within their unusual family circumstances. Chapter 3: Secret Moments. Navigating a romantic relationship while living in the same household required creativity, discretion, and careful attention to family dynamics that could reveal the change in their connection. Jamie and Marcus developed subtle ways to communicate their feelings and spend intimate time together without alerting the Henderson parents or Sarah to the evolution of their relationship. Their evening conversations continued, but now they included gentle physical affection that they had previously avoided. Jamie discovered that they enjoyed Marcus's casual touches, the way he would brush their hair behind their ear while they talked, or how he would trace patterns on their palm while they discussed their day. These small intimacies felt significant and comforting in ways that helped Jamie understand what they had been missing in their previous dating experience. Marcus proved to be remarkably intuitive about Jamie's sensory needs and preferences, adjusting his physical affection to accommodate their sensitivity to certain textures and unexpected touch. He learned that Jamie preferred gentle, predictable contact rather than spontaneous grabbing or tickling, and that they found certain types of pressure and warmth soothing rather than overwhelming. "You're really good at this," Jamie observed one evening as Marcus gave them a shoulder massage that helped ease the tension they carried from navigating social interactions throughout the day. "Good at what?" Marcus asked, continuing the gentle pressure that was helping Jamie relax. "Understanding what I need without me having to explain everything or feel like I'm being too demanding," Jamie replied. "You pay attention to how I respond to different things and adjust accordingly." Marcus smiled at this observation. "I like taking care of you, and I like learning about what makes you feel comfortable and happy. It's not demanding to have preferences and needs." Jamie felt touched by Marcus's approach to their physical relationship, which emphasized their comfort and pleasure rather than simply his own satisfaction or generic romantic gestures that might not work for their specific sensory and emotional needs. They also found ways to spend time together outside the house without raising suspicions about the nature of their relationship. Marcus would suggest family activities that allowed them to interact naturally, or they would coordinate errands and outings that gave them opportunities for private conversation and affection. "Want to come with me to the grocery store?" Marcus would ask during family dinners, directing the question to the table generally but making eye contact with Jamie to communicate his actual intention. During these outings, they could hold hands while walking through parking lots, steal quick kisses while choosing produce, and have conversations about their relationship without worrying about being overheard by family members. Jamie discovered that they enjoyed the secrecy of their relationship more than they had expected. The need for discretion created a sense of intimacy and special connection that made their time together feel precious and intentional rather than casual or taken for granted. "I like having something that's just ours," Jamie admitted to Marcus during one of their grocery store dates. "Something that doesn't have to be discussed or analyzed by anyone else in the family."
Marcus agreed with this sentiment, explaining that his previous relationships had often been subject to input and opinions from foster families or social workers who felt entitled to involvement in his personal life. Having a relationship that existed independently of family oversight felt liberating and adult in ways that enhanced their emotional connection. But maintaining secrecy also created challenges, particularly when family conversations touched on topics related to their future plans and living arrangements. Jamie struggled with hearing the Henderson parents discuss their college plans and independence goals while keeping secret the fact that their relationship with Marcus was a significant factor in their decision-making process. "I've been thinking about taking a gap year before starting college," Jamie mentioned during one family dinner, testing the waters for how this idea might be received. David Henderson looked surprised and concerned by this suggestion. "A gap year? But you've already been accepted to several excellent marine biology programs. Why would you want to delay your education?" Jamie felt the familiar frustration of having their choices questioned and analyzed rather than simply supported, but they also recognized that they couldn't explain their real motivation for considering a gap year without revealing their relationship with Marcus. "I just think it might be good to have some time to mature and develop more independence skills before jumping into college life," Jamie replied, hoping this explanation would be accepted without further interrogation. Margaret Henderson exchanged a meaningful look with her husband before responding to Jamie's comment. "If you're feeling anxious about college readiness, we could look into local programs that help students develop transition skills while still pursuing their education on schedule." Jamie felt frustrated by the assumption that their desire for a gap year was based on anxiety or inadequacy rather than positive motivation to make thoughtful decisions about their future. But they also couldn't argue effectively without revealing the real factors influencing their college timeline. Marcus observed these family conversations with increasing concern about how Jamie was being treated and the assumptions being made about their capabilities and motivations. After several instances of Jamie's perspectives being dismissed or reframed by the Henderson parents, Marcus decided to take a more active role in advocating for Jamie's autonomy and decision-making rights. "I think Jamie's idea about a gap year makes a lot of sense," Marcus said during one family discussion about college planning. "Taking time to gain work experience and clarify career goals can actually strengthen college applications and improve academic performance when students do start their programs." David Henderson looked slightly annoyed by Marcus's intervention in what he clearly considered to be a family decision about Jamie's future. "We appreciate your perspective, Marcus, but Jamie's educational planning is really something that needs to be decided by people who understand their specific needs and challenges." Marcus felt his own frustration rising at the dismissive tone and the implication that Jamie wasn't capable of participating meaningfully in decisions about their own future. "With respect, sir, I think Jamie understands their own needs and capabilities better than anyone else. They've demonstrated excellent self-advocacy skills and have specific goals and interests that should be the primary factors in educational planning."
Tension in the room became palpable as David Henderson realized that Marcus was challenging not just his specific opinion about Jamie's college timeline, but his authority over Jamie's major life decisions. Margaret Henderson interjected diplomatically, "We know you care about Jamie, but adoption creates legal and emotional responsibilities that are different from friendship or peer relationships. We have to consider factors that Jamie might not be thinking about, like financial implications and long-term consequences." Jamie felt their anger building at the way they were being discussed, as if they weren't present or weren't capable of understanding the conversation about their own future. "I am thinking about financial implications and long-term consequences," Jamie said firmly. "I'm also thinking about what kind of college experience would actually work for me instead of what looks good on paper or meets other people's expectations." The family meeting ended without resolution, but Jamie felt grateful for Marcus's support and his willingness to advocate for their autonomy even when it created tension with the Henderson parents. His intervention had made it clear that at least one person in the household respected Jamie's judgment and believed in their ability to make sound decisions about their own life. That evening, during their private conversation time, Marcus apologized for potentially making Jamie's family relationships more difficult by speaking up during the college discussion. "Don't apologize," Jamie said firmly. "I've needed someone to support my perspective in family conversations for years. The Hendersons mean well, but they don't understand that treating me like I can't make my own decisions is more harmful than helpful." Marcus pulled Jamie closer to him on the bed, providing the kind of physical comfort and emotional support that had become central to their relationship. "I hate seeing you get dismissed or talked about like you're not in the room. You're incredibly intelligent and capable, and you deserve to have your opinions and preferences respected." Jamie felt overwhelmed with affection for Marcus and gratitude for his consistent belief in their abilities and worth. "I love you," Jamie said quietly, the words emerging naturally despite the relative newness of their romantic relationship. Marcus's response was immediate and heartfelt. "I love you too, and I want to support whatever decisions you make about college and your future, even if it means dealing with family complications or challenging other people's assumptions about what's best for you." As they held each other in the quiet of Jamie's room, both of them understood that their relationship had moved beyond teenage romance into something that would significantly influence their individual futures and their willingness to challenge conventional expectations about family, independence, and social norms. Chapter 4: The Discovery. Their careful secrecy lasted for 2 months before an unexpected encounter revealed their relationship to the Henderson family in a way that created immediate crisis and forced difficult conversations about boundaries, expectations, and the future of their living arrangements. The discovery happened on a Saturday morning in early June, when both Jamie and Marcus believed the rest of the family had left for Sarah's soccer tournament and would be gone for several hours. They had planned to spend the morning together openly in the main areas of the house, cooking breakfast and watching movies without the usual need for discretion and careful positioning. Jamie was making pancakes while Marcus prepared coffee, and they were enjoying the freedom to interact naturally, with casual touches and comfortable conversation that reflected their actual relationship rather than the careful sibling dynamic they maintained for family consumption. After breakfast, "Do you want to work on your college application essays?" Marcus asked, wrapping his arms around Jamie's waist from behind and resting his chin on their shoulder while they flipped pancakes. "I was thinking we could just watch documentaries and be lazy this morning," Jamie replied, leaning back into Marcus's embrace and enjoying the physical affection they usually had to save for private moments in their rooms. They were standing together in this openly romantic position when Margaret Henderson walked through the front door, having returned early to pick up items she had forgotten for the soccer tournament. She stopped in the kitchen doorway, clearly shocked by the intimate scene she was witnessing. Jamie and Marcus separated immediately, but not quickly enough to maintain any pretense that their interaction had been platonic or familial. Margaret stood frozen, apparently trying to process what she had observed and its implications for their household dynamics and family relationships. "I think we need to have a family meeting when everyone gets home," Margaret said finally, her voice carefully controlled but obviously strained. "This is not a conversation that can wait." The rest of the morning passed in tense silence, with Jamie and Marcus avoiding each other and both of them dreading the family confrontation that awaited them when David and Sarah returned from the soccer tournament. Jamie spent the time trying to prepare arguments for why their relationship was appropriate and didn't harm anyone, while Marcus worried about the impact this revelation would have on his housing situation and future adoption prospects. When the full family gathered in the living room that afternoon, the atmosphere was charged with disappointment, confusion, and barely controlled anger from the Henderson parents. "Margaret told me what she observed this morning." David Henderson began, addressing both Jamie and Marcus with the kind of stern tone usually reserved for serious rule violations. "I think we deserve an explanation about what's been happening and how long this inappropriate relationship has been developing." Jamie felt their anxiety spiking at being characterized as inappropriate before they had even been allowed to explain their perspective or feelings. "It's not inappropriate," Jamie said, trying to keep their voice calm despite their emotional agitation. "We're not related, and we're both adults. We have feelings for each other, and we've been exploring those feelings respectfully and thoughtfully." David Henderson's expression became more frustrated at Jamie's response. "Jamie, you're 18 years old and preparing for college. Marcus is supposed to be your older brother figure and role model, not your romantic partner. This kind of relationship creates complications and conflicts that are harmful to everyone in the family." Marcus felt compelled to defend their relationship and Jamie's autonomy. "With respect, sir, our feelings for each other develop naturally through friendship and mutual support. We haven't done anything to harm the family or disrupt household dynamics. We've been discreet and responsible about our relationship." Margaret Henderson addressed Marcus directly, her tone disappointed and concerned. "Marcus, we brought you into this family to provide stability and support for your transition to independence. Pursuing a romantic relationship with Jamie undermines that goal and creates complications that we're not equipped to handle as a family." Jamie felt their anger building at the way their relationship was being discussed as a problem to be solved rather than a positive development to be acknowledged and supported. "Why is our relationship automatically considered a complication? We make each other happy, we support each other's goals, and we've been responsible about managing our feelings within our family situation." Sarah, who had been listening quietly to the family discussion, finally spoke up with her own perspective on the situation. "I think it's weird that you guys have been secretly dating while living in the same house. It makes me feel like I can't trust what's real about our family relationships." Jamie felt hurt by Sarah's reaction, but also understood that the secrecy had created confusion and feelings of betrayal among family members who hadn't been aware of the change in their relationship dynamic. "We kept our relationship private because we knew it would be controversial and we wanted to figure out our feelings before dealing with family reactions," Jamie explained. "We weren't trying to deceive anyone or create problems. We were trying to be responsible and thoughtful about a complicated situation." David Henderson stood up, apparently having reached a decision about how to handle the crisis. "This relationship cannot continue while you're both living in this house. Marcus, we'll need to discuss alternative housing arrangements that allow you to complete your transition to independence without these complications." Marcus felt panic at the threat to his housing stability, but also determination to protect his relationship with Jamie and advocate for their right to make their own choices about romantic involvement. "Are you saying you're going to kick me out because I have feelings for Jamie?" Marcus asked, his voice calm but his body language tense with controlled emotion. Margaret Henderson tried to soften her husband's ultimatum. We're saying that this living arrangement isn't working if it's leading to inappropriate relationships that complicate family dynamics and put everyone in uncomfortable positions. Jamie stood up, feeling their own determination to fight for their relationship and their right to make decisions about their personal life. Then maybe I should be the one who leaves. I'm 18, I'm starting college in the fall anyway, and I don't want to live somewhere that my choices about relationships are considered inappropriate just because they don't match your expectations. The family meeting ended without resolution, with both Jamie and Marcus retreating to their rooms to process the confrontation and consider their options for moving forward. Jamie felt hurt and angry about their family's reaction, but also relieved that their relationship was no longer secret and could be discussed openly. Marcus felt concerned about the immediate practical implications of the discovery, but also convinced that their relationship was worth fighting for regardless of the complications it created with housing and family dynamics. That evening, during what might be their last private conversation in the Henderson house, Jamie and Marcus talked honestly about their future together and their willingness to challenge conventional expectations about appropriate relationships and family boundaries. I don't want to lose you because of other people's opinions about our relationship, Jamie said, holding Marcus's hand tightly and feeling determined to prioritize their connection over family approval. You're not going to lose me, Marcus replied firmly. We'll figure out how to be together regardless of what living arrangements we end up with. Our relationship is more important than housing stability or family expectations. As they planned their next steps and prepared for difficult conversations about independence, housing, and their commitment to each other, both Jamie and Marcus felt confident that their love was strong enough to overcome the obstacles created by conventional thinking about family relationships and social norms. Chapter 5, Breaking Free. The week following their discovery was filled with tense family meetings, ultimatums, and increasingly clear lines drawn between Jamie and Marcus as a couple versus the Henderson parents' expectations for appropriate family relationships. Despite multiple conversations and attempted compromises, it became apparent that David and Margaret Henderson were not willing to accept or accommodate their romantic relationship while maintaining household harmony. We've talked to our social worker and our family therapist, Margaret announced during their final family meeting, and everyone agrees that this relationship is inappropriate given your family placement and the power dynamics involved in our household. Jamie felt frustrated by the involvement of outside professionals who didn't understand the specifics of their relationship or their individual circumstances. Did you tell them that we're not biologically related, that we're both adults, and that Marcus and I developed our connection independently of family dynamics? David Henderson looked tired and stressed from the week of conflict and negotiation. Jamie, the specific details don't change the fact that this relationship is creating problems for everyone in the family. We need to find a solution that allows both of you to move forward successfully without these complications. Marcus had spent the week researching his options for housing and support services, recognizing that he would likely need to leave the Henderson household regardless of the family's final decision about accommodating their relationship. I've found a transitional housing program that can provide support while I finish my degree and work toward complete independence, Marcus announced to the family. I can move out within 2 weeks, which should resolve the immediate household concerns. Jamie felt panicked by Marcus's announcement, realizing that his departure would separate them just as their relationship was becoming more serious and committed. What about us? What about our plans and our future together? Marcus reached for Jamie's hand, providing reassurance despite the uncertainty of their situation. We'll figure out how to maintain our relationship even if we're not living in the same place. This doesn't change how I feel about you or my commitment to our future together. Margaret Henderson looked relieved by Marcus's willingness to resolve the housing situation, but also concerned about the ongoing implications of their continued romantic involvement. Marcus, we appreciate that you're being responsible about the living arrangements, but we hope you'll also consider whether pursuing this relationship is fair to Jamie given their age and their preparation for college independence. Jamie felt their anger returning at the suggestion that their romantic choices were Marcus's responsibility rather than their own autonomous decision. I'm capable of making my own decisions about relationships. Marcus isn't taking advantage of me or preventing me from pursuing my goals. He's supporting my independence and my college plans. The family meeting concluded with Marcus's decision to move to transitional housing and Jamie's determination to maintain their relationship despite family disapproval and logistical challenges. Over the following 2 weeks, they spent time together planning how they would navigate their relationship while living separately and dealing with continued family tension.